Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, from this part of the world, good morning. How are you doing today? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can
Perfect.
hear
Thank
you.
Yes, yes.
you. Hi, everyone. How are you
Yeah,
Hi,
doing?
how
we're
are
hi.
you?
I'm
Hello.
well, thank you. So thank you so much for joining the session. I wanted to wait a few more minutes, but it's 11, so we're just going to start and every other person would catch up. So welcome, and today we will be talking about how to transition into a six-figure cybersecurity career, even with no prior tech experience. My name is Fala, and I will be the host for this session. But before we start, I would like everyone to please either scan the barcode on my screen or go to this website, slido.com. We're going to start with some ice-breaking questions, just a quick one. And the code to put in would be 1965343. And this session, just so we can send out a limited replay. So once again, you can scan the barcode on my screen on the right side, or you go to slido.com and enter the code 1965343. Let me see a thumbs up if you are in. Okay, are we in? We have 2 hours and we want to use this really well. So can I see a thumbs up if we're in or a message in the chat just to know you're in? Perfect. Okay, I see it. Okay, perfect. So we're going to start with a few questions. So which country are you joining us from? I mean, it's a global village right now. I'm located in Canada. I want to know where you are all located. Okay. Okay, I see a few people are answering in the chat, but it's usually more interesting when we put it in Slido, and then at the end we can sort of see, a central view. Okay, I see United States, USA, Canada, UK. Okay, Kenya. Okay, let's keep this coming. I want to do this, quickly. Okay, I still see more people in the chat. So if you're typing in the chat, please go to slido.com and enter the code. I'm going to put that in the chat. 1965343. We're going to be doing a lot on Slido, so let's try as much as possible. So the instructions are in the chat, slido.com. Code is 1965343. And we're also going to use Slido to collate all of the numerous questions you might have today. Or an easier way is to scan the barcode on the top left side of my screen. Okay, I'm going to give a few seconds just for us to do this. Okay, we can always come back to this. So let's go to the other question. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear cybersecurity? What comes to mind? Okay, six figure. Okay, I like that. Intrusion, hacking, protection, internet control, a spy, job security. Scary. Wow, cybersecurity is definitely not scary. And we're going to be looking at that today. Okay. Flexibility. Yes, it's a flexible area. Okay, I see we have more people in Slido. Protection or assurance, securing data, flexibility, securing internet, safety. Okay, bravo. Okay, and let's keep this coming. while we go to our other question. So our last question is, what was your main reason for joining the session? Career switch, flexibility, career change, learn. Okay. The theme seems to be around learning new skills, career change, career switch. Okay, good to know. My voice is breaking. Oh, career growth. Okay, I'm going to have to mute everyone, or if you can, please go on mute so that way we do not have any distracting or background noise. Okay, so we've all come together today to learn a new skill or to learn about how to advance, grow your career or start a career in cybersecurity. Okay, so now let's go into what we're going to be talking about today. And as we proceed, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat, or there's a Q&A session in Slido. So as I proceed, you might want to start entering your questions into Slido. And towards the end of the session, we're going to address all of your questions. Okay, before I start, you might wonder, who is this lady in pink? So my name is Fala. I'm a technology assurance leader and the lead career coach at Winfinite Consulting. I have over 12 years of experience in cybersecurity, and I have worked across different sectors. So on my screen is a snapshot of, about me, if you want to know about me. But basically, I'm going to start by telling a short story of how I started my career in cybersecurity and why we're having this session today. So many, many years ago, I started my career at KPMG. So KPMG is one of the consulting firms, and I was in cybersecurity. And then I moved to Canada a few years ago, and I continued my career. But the interesting part is how I founded my company, Winfinite Consulting. So I moved to Canada, and within 2 weeks of moving, I had gotten about 2 job offers. I mean, we all know that cybersecurity is um, it's a role that is in high demand. And then I had a few friends that moved like me to either Canada or the US. And, they were struggling. And this was how Winfinite Consulting was born. So we started having, weekend classes. I was trying to help them to transition, and it was working. They were getting jobs and, word of mouth through referral, and the rest they say is story. My experience cut across quite a number of cybersecurity domains, which are on my screen. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. Today, just like in the invite on Eventbrite, we're going to be talking about quite a number of things. What is cybersecurity, the job responsibilities, the industry outlook, why cybersecurity is a lucrative career, how to leverage AI to develop your resume, how to use artificial intelligence to prepare for interview, and of course, specific ways on job preparation, and also how you want to prepare for interviews, how you want to have a killer resume. We're going to be talking about all of that today. And we're also going to be addressing all of your questions. Please remember, for any questions, put them in Slido. There's a Q&A session in Slido. Please type in all of your questions, just so we don't miss them out. Okay, so let's begin. Cybersecurity risks and the threat landscape. But before we start, I just want to have an idea. Let's talk about some of the cybersecurity threats we are familiar with. So in the chat, I want everybody to list out some of the cybersecurity threats they've either heard about or they're familiar with. So there's some examples on my screen. Phishing, okay. Thanks, BA, for sharing that. Okay, I see another phishing. Aside from phishing, what else? In the last few months, there have been a lot of data breaches. I mean, when you watch the news, it's maybe an organization had a ransomware attack or data theft, data compromise, DOS attack. The list goes on and on and on. Okay, malware, social engineering. Okay, so quite a number. Insider data theft, IoT vulnerabilities, and IoT means Internet of Things. So anyone here that uses Alexa, you use smart driving, that is you using Internet of Things. So basically any device that is able to communicate with other devices and is connected to your network. Okay, phishing, that's a good one. So that's similar to phishing. The only difference is it comes to you in the form of an SMS. And then we have man-in-the-middle attack. So is anyone here familiar with man-in-the-middle attack? I would actually like to get to know people a bit more. So is there anyone that wants to talk to us about any of the cybersecurity threats? Anyone you're familiar with? Okay, I see Trojan attacks. So anyone wants to say something quickly about some of the cybersecurity threats? Which one are you most familiar with and you're comfortable to talk about?
Hello, my name is Ada.
Okay, hi Ada.
Okay, I'm very, very familiar with social engineering.
Okay.
This is where the hacker will try to manipulate like the victim into providing sensitive information.
Okay, thanks Ada for sharing. So basically, this is where the cyber criminal or the bad actor tries to psychologically trick humans into divulging sensitive information. Maybe they are clicking a malicious link. Okay, any other person wants to share? Or okay, I see one. Omar says, man-in-the-middle attack is intercepting information and using it for malicious purposes. That's very correct. So, of course, when you browse, you're transmitting data from one end to the another. So, man-in-the-middle attack is when somebody intercepts that information and maybe alters that information such that when it gets to the receiver, the information has been altered. Okay, fantastic. Presh, I saw you raised your hand. Please go ahead. Okay. And then unpatched software, nobody has said anything about unpatched software. I mean, even for those that use mobile devices, whether you use iPhone or Android, from time to time, you get notifications on your phone saying maybe you need to upgrade your OS or you need to run a patch. Okay, Titi says unpatched software is not updating. Unpatched software is updating software to the latest version. Okay, yes. So unpatched software is when you do not update your software to the latest version. And of course, what can go wrong when you don't do this? What this means is your system might have known vulnerabilities that bad actors can compromise. I mean, we don't want anybody stealing our confidential information, our financial data, our credentials. So we want to make sure that we are updating our systems and deploying patches in a timely manner. Okay, almost 0-day attacks. Fantastic. Okay, I don't want to dwell too much on this, so I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so again, this class is going to be very interactive because it's 2 hours and I don't like hearing my voice all the time. So again, who wants to tell us what is cybersecurity in your own words? What do you think cybersecurity is? Is there anyone that wants to share? And if you don't want to talk, feel free to drop a message in the chats. Wow, we're like 130. There must be somebody that knows what cybersecurity is.
Okay. My name is Osas.
Hi,
I
Osas.
would say, Yeah, hi. I would say cybersecurity is referred as a practical of protecting computer system, network, and data for unauthorized access to attack and what damage. That's what I know.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for sharing us that. I also see quite a couple of messages in the chat. So Ian says cyber security is protecting assets and data on IoT devices. Okay. Okay, let's keep it coming. I see quite a number of other messages. Protecting or securing information technology and internet from threats and setting controls. Fantastic. So cyber, do we all know what cyber is? So when you say cybersecurity, it's a combination of different words. Cyber, which is like digital. So when you talk digital and then you say security. So basically, your cybersecurity is the process or practice of protecting your digital devices, your systems. You want to make sure that the information you have stored in these devices are not compromised. And when we talk about data, we're talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So making sure that these three things are not compromised. And how are these things compromised? Maybe from unauthorized access. So imagine your home, if you don't have doors and windows, what's going to happen? You're going to have unauthorized visitors. Unauthorized visitors can be maybe thieves, can be wild animals. You're just going to wake up one morning and see an uninvited guest in your home. So when you bring this to cybersecurity, you want to make sure that you've put in the right controls in place to secure your data and your systems. And why is cybersecurity a thing? Why is there so much buzz around cybersecurity? It's because of the increasing reliance on technology in our daily lives. When you wake up, for those that have smart homes, right? If you have Alexa, you might have set up a routine on Alexa, and then we say, Alexa, set up my morning routine. And it starts telling you, oh, today's news is ABC. It turns on the light for you. It turns on the kettle for you. So in today's world, to make your life, easy, to make it convenient, we keep leveraging on technology. Everything is now over the internet. Nobody wants to have to physically go into the bank anymore, right? And it's because we're leveraging technology. And the more you leverage technology, the more you increase the security threat landscape. The more you have a lot of loopholes that bad actors can compromise to get unauthorized access to your system. So basically, that's why cybersecurity is a thing, and that's why it's going to keep getting bigger. And that is why organizations are scrambling and looking for skilled cyber professionals to employ. So let me ask another quick question. In the last 3 months, when you watch the news, or let me say in the last 1 year, what are some of the popular cyber incidents that have happened to organizations? Do we remember any examples?
Ransomware, the government.
Okay. Ransomware. Okay. What other one? And I want us to look at industries. When you talk about ransomware data breaches, does it only happen in one industry, or is it something that, it can happen to any industry? So we've had the issue of Okta. We've had the issue of LCBO, where they had data breaches last year. And if we all remember, especially for those that live in the US, Colonial Pipeline, about a few years ago, they had this ransomware issue that affected distribution of
The oil and gas. That's the one I was talking about. Yep.
Yes. So even hotels, hospitals, healthcare industry, even the Toronto Zoo one that happened, a few weeks ago, libraries. So basically, cybersecurity is something that is not just applicable to one industry. It applies to every industry, from oil and gas to healthcare to libraries, anything whatsoever. And then, of course, we want to talk about cyber GRC. So when we look at cyber GRC, the full meaning of, oh, fantastic, Ayodele says move it. That's a good one. So if we remember the move it one, for a lot of organizations, they use move it tool to transfer data. And because of this breach, a lot of organizations had issues. Bad actors were able to compromise systems by exploiting this vulnerability. And that's why we're all here today, because we want to find out more about cybersecurity. So let's take a quick minute to talk about GRC. So does anybody know the full meaning of GRC?
Government risk compliance.
Okay, so governance, risk, and compliance. So I'm going to be, using that acronym GRC a lot because governance, risk, and compliance is quite a mouthful. So when we talk about governance, risk, and compliance, before we even take it to cybersecurity, I want us to look at governance. Let's leave out cyber for 1 minute. So in your own words, what does governance mean?
Okay, governance refers to the establishment of policy, procedure,
Okay.
and guide that define how the organization manage and control its activities.
Okay, perfect, Osas. So basically, governance talks about frameworks, policies. When you establish management's direction, your strategy, all of that. So governance is like an established framework provided by the management of an organization. Now, when we bring this to cybersecurity, it's basically the same thing, but as it relates to cybersecurity. So you want to make sure that you establish processes, frameworks, standards to manage cybersecurity risks. Also ensuring that you also comply with the numerous regulatory standards. So another thing about cybersecurity is because it is so wide, right? It is borderless. It cuts across countries, jurisdictions. What this means is you need to set up requirements, right? That's why we have regulators to make sure that things are done properly. For example, for those that reside in Europe, any organization that is conducting business with European residents needs to comply with GDPR, right? That's one of the common cybersecurity standards. And if your organization stores, processes card data, then you need to comply with PCI DSS, which is a regulatory standard. And then we have risk. So when you talk about cybersecurity risks, these are, anyone here familiar with risk? Anyone wants to share with us quickly? So risk is the possibility that anything can go wrong. That's basically what it is.
Vulnerability.
Okay. So a risk is basically the potential that a threat would exploit a vulnerability, which would maybe lead to damage or impact your IT assets. And of course, we're all risk managers. I mean, before we started this class today, I and my team were looking at what can go wrong, right? So we're trying to assess our risk and then sort of think, okay, if this happens, what can we do? What can we do? So a layman way of explaining risk management. Imagine that you want to go to bed in the night. As most people will do, you want to go around your house to make sure that you've locked your doors. You want to make sure that you've locked your windows. And why are you trying to do this? You're assessing your risk, right? You want to make sure that you've locked all of these things so that you don't have any unexpected surprises. You want to sleep with peace of mind. So when you bring this to cybersecurity, your risk management is you're reviewing your systems, your networks, your data. You want to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities that can be exploited by bad actors. So it's like you're being proactive to say, okay, what can go wrong? How can I prevent this from going wrong? How can I monitor this to make sure that even if something goes wrong, I can identify it in a timely manner? And why is GRC very important? It is important because it helps to enhance the overall security posture of the organization. And when I say security posture, what I mean is how secure are your systems? How secure are the data being stored on your systems? Your applications, your network devices, the tools you use. Your employees, are they aware of their security responsibilities? So basically, when we talk about GRC, just look at it as an organized and structured framework that organizations use to manage cybersecurity risks. And remember, if you have any questions, remember to type it in Slido, the Q&A session. Okay, so let's go to our next slide. We're going to talk a bit about the 3 elements of GRC, and I'm going to use a traffic light to sort of explain this better. So I'm sure we're all familiar with traffic lights, right? I have an image at the bottom right of my screen. So when you're driving, everybody follows, the traffic light. When it's red, you stop. When it's orange, it means you need to start getting ready to stop. And then when it's green, it means you can go. And with the traffic lights, this is, what you use to control traffic, flow of traffic in the real world. Now, I want us to take a second to imagine, without the traffic lights, what do you think will go wrong? There's going to be chaos on the road, right?
It's going to be a lot of damages and
Okay, so basically there's going to be accidents, car crashes, loss of lives, right? Because when you get to maybe an intersection, people are just going to be driving anyhow. It's going to be chaos. So basically, when we look at GRC, it's similar to your traffic lights. So the management of an organization, what they do is they use governance to sort of provide a direction, right? Telling you the secure practices that organization must use. They want to provide a direction. How do you want to secure your systems? How do you want to make sure that cybersecurity risks are identified in a timely manner? So, and governance is the foundation of cybersecurity. And then, of course, you talk about risk. So risk, you want to first of all identify all your IT assets, your systems, your data, the people. So you want to identify, and then you want to identify what are your vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities means system weakness. And then you want to identify what are some of the threats that can exploit these vulnerabilities. In the chats, can we think of threats? What are some of the threats? Remember that at the beginning, we started with threats where we talked about phishing, we talked about malware, right? And then your vulnerabilities. An example of a vulnerability is when you leave your system unpatched. That's just something, you're just waiting for something bad to go wrong. And remember that hackers never sleep. In fact, if hackers sleep, they have tools that, are scanning the systems for weaknesses all the time. So as a security person, you also want to be a step ahead because that's why you're being paid, right? Another way to explain this, imagine that you're in a ship and you're the captain. So you're steering your ship. You want to check the weather. What's the weather? What does it look like? Is there a storm, right? When that storm happens, you want to be well prepared. So as a risk manager, you're like somebody steering your organization's ship. You're trying to steer it in such a way that even in times of storms, you do not capsize. And of course, you must have put in a lot of tools, processes, and people in place. And then when we talk about compliance, what is compliance? The English meaning of compliance: adhering to relevant laws, regulations, industry standards, internal policies as it relates to cybersecurity. So when you look at common cybersecurity standards and frameworks, COBIT, PCI DSS, ISO 27001, you want to make sure that your organization is complying with all of those regulatory frameworks. So whenever you hear GRC, remember, just think of it as your traffic lights. Why is cybersecurity a lucrative career? For so many reasons. One, the salary is high. It's high because of all what we've talked about, right? Organizations, they want to learn from other people, right? No organization wants to fall victim to a ransomware attack because it's going to affect their revenue. It's going to affect their competitive advantage. They're going to lose, that competitive advantage they have. It's also going to affect their brand or reputation. So they want to make sure that they have the right skilled professionals to be ahead of the battle. remote or hybrid roles. You don't have to go into the office. The type of work you do as a cybersecurity specialist, you do not have to be there physically. You can always connect remotely. You can have meetings remotely. And as such, that's why there's a good work-life balance. So what this means is for a lot of women, especially, some people don't want to have to go into work physically because they don't have daycare for their kids and all of that. But with this role, you're able to work from home, or if at all you want to do hybrid, you go into the office maybe once in a week. So it gives you work-life balance. And another thing about this role is it is globally recognized. So whether you live in Turkey, Ghana, Kenya, Asia, cybersecurity is cybersecurity. And it has multiple career pathways. And you can easily move from one role to another role by upskilling. So today you can be an identity and access management specialist. Tomorrow you can be a risk specialist. So you can easily move from one area to another area. Shortage of skilled workers, that's another big one, right? Now, I'm sure you must have noticed when there's any news about maybe an organization maybe falling prey to ransomware attack or data breaches, you see that before you know it, that organization is scrambling to get more security professionals. So right now, there's a huge shortage of skilled workers and job stability. With, the increasing use of AI, what this means is more roles are going to open up. A few years ago, we didn't have any role like third-party risk management, but now it's now a big department, TPRM. So you're going to keep hearing new roles open up day by day. In terms of job outlook, let's quickly look at some numbers. So globally, 3.5 million job openings by 2025. This is the prediction, according to Cybersecurity Jobs Reports. And cybersecurity roles are expected to grow by 20% in 2025. In terms of on-field roles, in Canada and the US, as of 2023, we had so many on-field roles. And for women in cybersecurity, as of 2022, there was just a 25% percentage of women in cybersecurity. So that is why organizations right now are coming up with so many initiatives to make cybersecurity a more diverse and inclusive industry. So when we look at market trends generally, these are the three main reasons why cybersecurity is only going to keep growing. Rise in cyber incidents. So there's this increasing number of cyber incidents globally. And when cyber incidents happen, organizations will maybe need to pay penalties. They might need to even pay the customers that were impacted. Also, it's going to affect their numbers. Their share price is going to drop. It might lead to customer churn. So organizations do not want to be here. So they want to make sure they have skilled professionals to prevent cyber incidents from happening. Of course, technological advancements. So when you look at AI, when you look at robotics, machine learning, cloud computing, most organizations are leveraging cloud, right? Because it's a leaner way of doing business. And the more technology advances, the higher the chances of cybersecurity incidents. And we have regulatory compliance. This is also another big area. Increasing regulations. In fact, NIST has a new regulation for managing artificial intelligence. People need to ensure this compliance, right? And as a GRC specialist, what exactly are you going to be doing? So I've broken down this into a number of buckets. You have risk management, security governance, compliance management, security control evaluation, stakeholder engagement, monitoring and reporting, security awareness. So what are these? Remember that your role basically, a simple way is saying you're going to be managing rules and guidelines, which is governance. You're going to be assessing risk, and then you'll be ensuring compliance with security standards to make sure your organization's digital world is secure. So under risk management, everyone here, in one way or the other, you're a risk manager. When you want to buy a house or you want to buy maybe treasury bills, the bank is going to ask you questions. What is your risk tolerance level? Or what is your risk acceptance level? Or what is your risk threshold? So here is where you want to identify and assess and prioritize the potential security risks to your organization and make sure that you're putting security controls in place to mitigate or manage these risks. We've talked about security governance. This is where you work with senior management. So the good thing about this space is you're going to be working with senior management, your CISO, your executives, your senior leaders, making sure that you're working with them to develop policies, processes, standards, guidelines, and making sure that your organization's processes and documents are aligned with industry standards, which I'm sure a lot of you are already doing in non-cyber roles. And then compliance, this is the easiest part. Adherence. And then, of course, you want to be reviewing the security controls at intervals or periodically. You want to make sure that the security controls, the disaster recovery plan, your identity and access management controls, all those controls are functioning as intended. Your intrusion detection system, your intrusion prevention system, your firewalls, all of those are functioning as intended, right? From time to time, you might need to review maybe penetration testing reports. Stakeholder engagements. As a GRC, you're seen as a subject matter expertise. So what this means is you're going to be liaising with so many technology professionals or IT professionals, your programmers, your network engineers, your legal team, auditors, regulators. They're going to be calling you to come and provide advice to say, oh, as the risk manager, we want to deploy a new tool. What's your thought process? Monitoring and reports. So when you maybe do a risk assessment or a risk review, you have to highlight issues. You want to monitor what you call your key risk indicators. You want to show management to say, you know what, these are our cybersecurity domains. Here we're trending red. Here we're trending green, based on all the KRIs that are being monitored. And you want to report and keep an eye on remediation of these issues. Information security awareness. As we all know, humans are the weakest link in every security defense strategy. So here you want to make sure that employees of your organization are being trained and are aware of their information security responsibilities. This list is not exhaustive, still quite a lot. You might need to work on what you call threat risk assessment. You might need to work on maybe vendor risk management. So as a GRC specialist, what kind of roles can you apply for? Quite a number. And again, this list on my screen is also not exhaustive. One thing I find common is a lot of people, when they're searching for GRC roles, they just go online and type in cybersecurity GRC specialist. The problem is organizations might not advertise that role with that particular title you're searching for. So you must be able to diversify the different job titles. An organization might advertise IT GRC specialist. Another organization might call it cybersecurity GRC specialist. The key thing is to look at what's the job description. That's what really matters. It can be advertised as cybersecurity risk specialist, TCIDSS specialist, security governance specialist, or any of these on my screen. So this is one error I find people making most times. So it's not that there are no job roles or there are no job opportunities. It's because you've boxed yourself into searching for one job title when you are able to work effectively in these other roles. So what are the top skills employers are looking for? So this, I'm going to categorize this into two, technical and soft skills. So I'm going to start with the easy one, soft skills. For a lot of hiring managers, they're not just looking at your technical skills. right? Your technical skills is just one part of it. Soft skills are very important. So in this role, you must be a problem solver. You must be able to think outside the box. You must be a critical thinker. In cybersecurity, you need to continuously learn, continuously upskill. Why? Because your bad actors, they are continuously looking for new ways of bypassing the security controls the organization has put in place. So you must always try to be a step ahead. You need good communication skills. You're going to be having meetings, facilitating risk workshops, presenting your reports to management. So you need to be able to communicate your written, both in written way and verbally. Attention to details, very key. Collaboration, you're going to be collaborating with, so many other stakeholders. And when we come to networking skills, you need to have networking basics. So for one system to be able to communicate with another system, what it means is they've been connected together, maybe via the internet, or maybe a networking device has been put in there, or maybe via your LAN, your WAN, or whatever networking mode. Application security. So every organization has quite the number of applications. So at a minimum, you must have basic application security knowledge and skills. How do you know that the application is secure? Is it using the right protocols? Has the application been developed in a secure way? When it was being developed, did they look at principles like security by design? That application, is it subject to any of the top 10 OWASP vulnerabilities? Operating systems. And bear in mind, in this role, your technical skills, in fact, let me just quickly talk about this. As a GRC specialist, you're not the person that is going to be configuring the network tools. So you don't configure, you are not hands-on. All you need to be able to do is know about this system so that you can provide the right information, advice, and direction to the implementers. So operating systems, at the minimum, have an idea of what operating systems are, the types of operating systems that your organization is using. Cybersecurity threat awareness, I talked about this earlier. This is really key. When most organizations have like data breaches, you're going to find out later that it might be because one employee maybe saved their password outside the organization's network, maybe in an insecure way, or because somebody divulged confidential information to the wrong person. So a good way to look at this is this. Your organization might spend billions putting in security tools, training employees, right? And all it takes to cause damage is just one employee maybe clicking a phishing link or downloading an email that has a malicious email attachment. And unknown to that employee, that email attachment maybe has a Trojan horse or a worm or a virus. And as soon as you download that attachment, unknown to you, an executable file is running in the background, which maybe then opens a backdoor to the hacker. Security tools. So you want to know common security tools. Your security incident and event management tool, your IAM tools, your DLP tools. Basic security software, patch and vulnerability management, very key. Secure configuration settings. How do you know that your systems have been configured in a secure way? You want to know information security, CIA, risk management, security frameworks. So let's quickly talk about the various cybersecurity career pathways. So this is one common question I get all the time. So what's the main difference between technical security roles and roles that are less technical? So this is also something that is going to help point you in the right role to pursue. So I'm going to talk, let's start with technical roles. So I have 4 examples of technical cybersecurity roles on my screen. A very common one is penetration tester. This is also known as ethical hacker or pen tester. And what do? These are people that try to simulate, attacks. What are they trying to achieve? They want to see how easy or how difficult it is to bypass the security systems or controls an organization has put in place. And based on the results, they are able to then harden those systems. Of course, to be a penetration tester, you need to have coding skills or scripting skills because you might need to write some Linux scripts. You need to have a good understanding of operating systems. So when we say pen testing is technical, it's because when you're trying to bypass security controls, what this means is you need to go, first of all, you must be able to think outside the box. You need to understand the different ways, the different steps in penetration testing, from recognizance, where you want to even identify what are the IP addresses for that organization. If you want to perform an external pen test, what are the IP addresses? You want to understand, maybe do like an OS footprint. What type of operating system is that system running? That is what will give you an idea of the vulnerabilities on that operating system before you even try to simulate the attack. Then we go to SOC analyst. So SOC means Security Operations Center. Your Security Operations Center is like a 24/7 team, right? So what this means is when other people close, maybe you do 9 to 5, this team is there. And what do? They are monitoring security alerts. So your security alerts from different systems, your IDS, your IPS, your network tools, and they're analyzing this data and responding to potential security threats in real time. Again, for this role, you would need to be technically sound. So you are more, when I say technical and less technical, let me redefine that a bit. When I say technical, what I mean is you're more hands-on, right? Meaning you would actually be configuring the system. While in less technical roles, you're more of a talker and not a doer, right? So you can imagine that technical is a doer, while less technical is more of a talker. So you are providing guidance to the doers. A network security engineer. So here you're going to be dealing a lot with network infrastructure. And your infrastructure is anything behind your application. Your databases, your firewalls, your switches, your routers, your IDS, your IPS, your VPNs. So these people are the ones that ensure that an organization's network infrastructure is secure. And then you have malware analysts. So malware means malicious software, right? And that's, they put together that to become malware. So as a malware analyst, your job is to analyze malicious software. You want to understand how it behaves. You want to understand its origin. And then maybe, based on all that understanding, develop strategies to detect and mitigate malware. So again, when I say technical roles, what I mean is these are doers. Now, let's take a look at less technical cybersecurity roles. So these are more like the talkers. So first one here is Cyber GRC. So as a Cyber GRC, it's expected that you know best practice security standards, frameworks, processes. You help your organization align it with its business goals, making sure it's complying with regulations and you're managing risks proactively. So here, you're not going to be configuring system. You're not going to be running Linux scripts. That is why when they say you can transition to cybersecurity with no proud tech experience, it's usually easier to transition into roles like this where you do not require coding or scripting skills. And then security compliance. So here, you're basically ensuring that your organization adheres with security processes, standards, frameworks. So again, you don't need scripting knowledge here because you're not going to be running scripts. You're not going to be running Linux scripts. Here, you just need to understand your security frameworks and then do routine checks to make sure that your organization is compliant. Information security awareness. So here, you're going to be educating and training your organization's employees to recognize and prevent security threats. And risk manager, you're wearing a risk hat. You want to identify potential cyber risk, analyze their impacts, and make sure that you are proactively eliminating or minimizing the impact of those risks. So, okay, Ike, I see you have a question in the chat. If you don't mind, can you put that in Slido just so we don't miss the question during the Q&A session? Again, these roles on my screen are not exhaustive. I've just, picked out some common examples. So we're going to talk about the practical steps to start a cybersecurity career. So the very first thing you need to do is to be able to identify your transferable skills that can be leveraged in this field. So basically, at this point, the first thing you want to do, I've talked about two categories of cybersecurity roles, technical and less technical. So the first thing you want to do is, am I willing to learn how to script? Am I willing to learn how to code? Am I willing to be very technical? And at this point, you also want to look at maybe work-life balance, right? For example, if you work as a SOC analyst, because it's a 24/7 role, what it means is you're going to be working in shifts. So you want to decide, am I willing to work beyond 5? Like, am I willing to work during the weekends? Then when it comes to transferable skills, a major problem I've noticed here is for most people, they always assume, oh, I have no prior tech experience. I've been in maybe customer care, or I've been a lawyer all my life. But the truth is, I was opportune to sit in a call with some accountants, and I heard them using so many keywords. They were talking about access controls, audit and login. I was wowed. So basically, everybody here, you have transferable skills. When you start looking at risk management in your current role, what do you do around risk? Do you help your organization? Do you do maybe some data analytics to look at trends, maybe customer spending patterns? You're analyzing data and getting insights. You're going to need that skill when you're doing vulnerability and patch management review. So that's an example of a good transferable skill. So this is your starting point. Identify your transferable skills. Another one is maybe you've done testing, maybe in your previous role, your team was moving from an old application to a new application, and maybe you were part of the user acceptance testing. You're already doing SDLC because testing is part of software development lifecycle. Or maybe, you were part of those that provided the initial system requirements. So that's an example of a transferable skill. So at the end of today's meeting, what I need you to do is get a pen and a sheet of paper and start writing. What did you learn today? What are some of the transferable skills you have? Or maybe in your team, when there's a new team member, you're the person that reaches out to help desk to say, oh, we have a new team member. This is the person's username. Please create this user and assign this person this privilege. That is you already delving into identity and access management. Then the next step is to have the right mindset and set your career goals with timelines. So this is where I see a lot of people having major issues. A lot of people just believe that, oh, I want to transition into cybersecurity. All I need to do is sign up for a class. All I need to do is write some certification. It's beyond that. So first thing first, you need to develop the right mindset. Know what you're getting into. Know that it might not all be easy, right? Identify some of the stumbling blocks and try to think of how to eliminate them. Give yourself some time. Rome was not built in a day, right? Try by taking baby steps. And then, of course, at this point, you want to have some anchor points so that when things become tough and you're like, you know what, I'm done, you want to go back. Why did I start this journey in the first place? You also want to start, identifying people around you, people that will motivate you, people that would inspire you. So maybe go on LinkedIn and start following people that are already in the role where you want to be in a few years. A lot of, as humans, we get discouraged easily. So you want to think, whenever you feel down, you feel discouraged, who can I call that will ginger me, will motivate me? So look for people like that around you. It might be a family member, it might be a friend, it might be your child. I mean, anybody. And then the next step is you want to think, how do I acquire the right skills I need to get to where I need to be? And then you can even start looking at free materials. So there are a lot of free materials, which we're even still going to talk about today. But a quick one is ISC2 offers a free cybersecurity exam. It's called Certified in Cybersecurity CC. I would recommend that everybody look it up. It comes with a free self-paced training as well as a free voucher for you to write the exam. So maybe you don't want to jump into this, right? You want to take a baby step. So go online, start looking up, start doing some research and look towards this CC. Aside from CC, there's so many. Google has a certificate in cybersecurity. So go and start, researching what are some of the free materials. Start putting all of these things together so that even when you decide that, you know what, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with information. I want to go into a more practical and hands-on training that will get me ready for what is expected on the job. At least by then, you're not going in green. You already have the basics, the foundation. So once you go into this, maybe you sign up for a training or a boot camp. You want to make sure that you utilize this. You want to make sure that you're not just depending on that training alone. You're researching. See, the truth is, as a cybersecurity professional, you have to be proactive. Nobody knows it all. You're going to, even in the real world, you're going to go into meetings and they might talk about a concept that maybe you're not very familiar with. So even you're going to go into Google, right? So you want to start developing that continuous learning, researching. It's a skill. And there are so many really good training outfits out there. Then the next step you want to do is to say, okay, even if I want to get a training, I still need to build my portfolio, right? Remember that as a hiring manager, you want to pick the most qualified employee for that job. In fact, most times when you look at job description, they can put in a very long list of the things they want you to have. But in the real world, you might not do everything. So you want to start building your technology profile so that you can demonstrate to the hiring manager that you're the best person for the role. How do you do this? Take relevant certification. So I've talked about some free certifications that you might want to start exploring. There are also a number of capture the flag challenges, CTF, where you can actually take real life simulations. A good example is Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. So they're going to take different topics in cybersecurity. There are simulations you would go through. You have Forage platform. When you sign up for Forage platform, bear in mind that all these things I'm talking about, they are all free. When you go into Forage platform, a lot of organizations have created real life simulations, what to expect on the job. For example, you have PwC in there. You have quite a number of other organizations. They have videos where you hear from team members, cybersecurity team members, telling you what they do and how they do it. And then they give you tasks for you to work on, just as if you're a team member of that organization. And the best part of some of these things is at the end of it, you get a completion certificate, which you can proudly display on LinkedIn. So again, if you're transitioning, you need to be able to tell a story on your LinkedIn profile. I was a customer care representative. I was an accountant, but this is how I got into cybersecurity. So what that means is if I go into your LinkedIn profile now, I should be able to see some of the certificates you've completed around cybersecurity. So when you complete a number of these, they're going to give you either a badge or a certificate. Make sure you upload them to LinkedIn. It tells a story that one, You're learning, continuous learning, you're upskilling, and it shows you have hands-on experience. MasterCard is also present on Forex. So they will give you assignments, maybe around information security awareness. Your next step is you want to have a resume. And the resume you have, I think this is another common mistake. When I review people's resume, you want to become a security specialist. But then at the end of, when I look at your resume, it is everything in there is just maybe accounting, or everything there has to do with environmental waste. Your previous experience, how is that going to convince the hiring manager? So at each point of what I've been talking about, you want to make sure that all the skills you learned, all those practical skills, you include them under a skills section under your resume. Those buzzwords, vulnerability and patch management, identity and access management, disaster recovery plan, those keywords, SIM, you want to make sure you put all of those in your resume. On my next slide, I'm going to talk about how you can leverage AI to achieve, a killer resume. Hiring managers, typically, what they do is they go search for you on LinkedIn. So what this means is whatever information you have in your resume, you must also tie to your LinkedIn profile. And then you want to start applying for relevant roles on LinkedIn, via job boards like Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter. So make sure that you have created profiles on so many job boards. Create job alerts. Easy apply, very easy. When you're in the bus, you can easily apply for a role. And you're going to be getting alerts. In fact, on LinkedIn, there's somewhere where you can actually set your profile to open to jobs, and you will specify the type of job roles you're looking for. Now, beware. There are two types of ways of achieving this. One is the one that shows you're open to new work, and it shows that to everybody. What that means is you're going to have that green banner on your DM, open to work. I wouldn't recommend that because you don't want your current employer to know that you're actively searching. So go for the other option, which just shows that information to recruiters only. So what this means is when recruiters go into LinkedIn and they're searching for people with specific skills, because you've optimized your LinkedIn profile, your profile is going to show up. And this way, you're going to get recruiters reaching out to you via LinkedIn. A lot of people have gotten jobs without applying, right? So the next time we have this information session, I want to get feedback from people on how they've implemented some of these things and some of, how they are making it in the cyber world. And of course, the best way to know whether your resume is working or not is if you're getting rejection emails. If you're getting a rejection emails, it simply means you've not optimized your resume adequately. So there's something called ATS, Application Tracking System. So recruiters will put in certain keywords into the ATS. When you apply for a job, that system is going to scan your resume for those keywords. And if those keywords are not in there, that is when you get rejection emails. And of course, resume is not a one-time activity. It's a continuous process. So before you apply for any job, you want to make sure you've tailored your resume to that particular job. And why is it important to tailor your resume? Different companies might advertise the exact job title, but when you look at the job description, it is different. When you look at the tools, the skill set they're looking for, it might be slightly different. And then when you apply for maybe a job, you give it some time. If you don't hear back, or maybe you get a rejection email, then you know you need to go and do more work on your resume. So resume and LinkedIn optimization, it's a continuous process and not a one-time activity. Then you have interview preparation. How do you prepare for interviews? You can leverage AI, which I will talk about on my next slide, right? But typically, the first thing you want to do is copy out the job description, maybe into a Word document, and highlight, some of the keywords in there. Look through, are there any areas you are not familiar with? Go research and have practical examples to demonstrate your knowledge during the interview. Another area I see that people struggle during interviews is interviews are never a yes or no. When they ask you questions, go the extra mile. Remember that it's your job to demonstrate to the hiring manager that you're the best person for the role. So any question they ask you, go an extra mile by giving examples, especially if you can even give industry examples to say, oh, for example, this happened to this industry. That shows that not only do you know what you're talking about, but you're actually correct. So always give a justification for your response. And then, of course, you want to network with professionals within the industry. Now, when you apply for jobs, before you apply for jobs, you might want to explore referral. When someone refers you, meaning somebody that works within that organization refers you, it gives you an edge, right? Because what it means is your resume would bypass, the ATS system, and there's a higher chance that your resume will get to the hiring manager. So you want to explore referral. So the first thing you want to do is think within my network, who works with this organization? And if you don't have anybody, you can go to LinkedIn, search for people that work within the organization, craft a polite and well-written message, send it to them, asking them, introducing yourself and asking if they'll be willing to refer you for a role. And then, of course, you want to keep up with industry trends and best practices. In fact, this is one of the most common interview questions. They're always going to ask you, how do you keep up with cybersecurity industry trends and frameworks? So you should be able to tell them, oh, I subscribe to major thought leaders, such as Dark Reading, Stan's New Bites, ISACA. So some of the certifications play a significant role. Why? Because it demonstrates that you have the right knowledge. It demonstrates that you're committed, and it also shows industry recognition. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager. They only know what you've put in your resume, right? But how do they know whether what you've put in your resume is true or not? But if you support this with a certification, then what this means is, well, this person has been tested by one of these leading industry organizations. So if it is CC, what it means is ISC has tested your knowledge in cybersecurity. And because you passed that exam, it means that, well, truly you know your stuff. So let's also talk about some of the top certifications for entry-level positions in cybersecurity. And of course, I want to talk about the ones that are easy to pass, because I don't think anybody wants to write an exam and fail it. There's just a way it demoralizes you. So I've talked about CC earlier, which is the absolutely free one. I mean, totally free. You also have CompTIA Security Plus. So this is another good one. CompTIA Security Plus has 5 domains. And then you have CISM, Certified Information Security Manager. And the good thing about these 3 exams is you don't even need to pay for it, right? You can actually you can study by yourself. There are a lot of resources. For CompTIA Security Plus, if you go to YouTube, there's this guy called Pete Zerga. If you watch his YouTube videos, you have the manual and you practice past questions. You do this in a serious way, you will be able to pass this exam, even without a bootcamp. There are materials on Udemy, Coursera, but I always advocate for the free ones first because there's just so much information out there. So try the free ones first before you start paying. And then CISM. CISM, although it requires that you have 5 years of experience, but guess what? You can actually pass the exam, right? And then in your resume, you put in CISM in brackets, passed. So before you can actually say you have a CISM license, you must have been able to demonstrate your 5 years experience to ISACA. But even without that, you can still have it as passed in your resume, because a lot of these jobs that you're looking for, most times they always ask for at least 1 certification. either season, either commercial security plus, series. So there are quite a number of certifications. I'm talking about these three because these three are actually easy to pass and they are also widely recognized.
Cybersecurity GRC program.
Okay, I'm also keeping an eye on the chat. Please type the name. Okay. You have about 3. In fact, I just made a video about that on my Instagram page. So let's talk about ChatGPT. I'm sure everybody here knows ChatGPT. ChatGPT is, ChatGPT is really good. And there's a free version. You don't even have to pay for it, right? So if you put in the right prompt on ChatGPT, you are able to get a lot out of it. You can ask ChatGPT to say, okay, act as a cybersecurity career coach and critique my resume. I'm trying to apply for, you put in the role you're trying to apply for, and you can even put in the name of the company, put in the job description as well, and put in your resume. Or if you want to identify keywords, you can paste the resume in ChatGPT and ask it to identify the critical keywords that you should include in your resume. A better one might be JobScan. JobScan, you don't need any prompts. All you need to do is upload both your resume as well as the job description for the role you want to apply for. And then you click on scan. It's going to take a few seconds to scan, and then it will give you a list of keywords. It might not give you all of the keywords for free, right? But even the ones that it gives you for free are sufficient for you. And the more you want to apply for new roles and you do this, it becomes part and parcel of you. And you also have interview by AI. So what interview by AI does is it actually preps you for interviews. Another thing I tell people is for most people,
Cybersecurity GRC program.
okay, I was on the wrong slide. Thank you for bringing my attention to it. So yes, this is the slide that talks about the top 3 AI tools to help land your dream cybersecurity role. It might seem a bit daunting at times, right? Oh, I'm just trying to transition. How do I identify the right skills? How do I make myself very competitive? How do I position myself strategically, right? So that organizations want to employ me. Now, this is where you use these tools. I talked about ChatGPT earlier. The thing about ChatGPT is never, ever, ever use the first result you get from ChatGPT. Remember that when you use AI, you don't want it to be obvious. The same way you are using AI is the same way other people are using AI. So you must always review what AI gives you. In fact, in ChatGPT, there's a disclaimer, right? So review to make sure that it is correct and it is accurate. And the first prompt you put, you might not get the best results. So you might need to edit your prompt a few times before you get what you're looking for. If you have people around you that are already established in cybersecurity, you can also reach out to them if they have the time. You have interviews by AI. This is specifically for interviews. So when you put in the job description in there, you can ask it, what are some of the interview questions that may be asked? And then you can use it to prep for your interview. You can actually record yourself talking and then upload it, and it will critique and provide feedback to you. I talked about JobScan earlier. Aside from these 3 tools, there are so many tools. In fact, you have LinkedIn Career Explorer. That's another one. If you go through it, it would highlight the skills for different job roles for you. And I see someone is asking me, are these tools free? Most tools are free, but there's always a limit, right? It's just the same way. I mean, it's a business. So, but even the free version will still give you what you need if you use the right prompts. Okay, so on this slide, I'm going to quickly talk about success factors. So the truth is, you can become a cybersecurity GRC specialist or even any of the other roles I've talked about. It just requires a number of things from you. It requires your determination. You need to be determined, right? I want to do this. Is this something I want to go in for the long haul, right? You also require the right training and coaching. For a number of people, they'll say, oh, I've completed a training, but when it comes to interviews, I'm overwhelmed. So I'm going to quickly talk about some of the issues that might prevent you from successfully transitioning. And there are these three: imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and fear. I'm sure everyone here at one point or the other in your life, you must have experienced one of these three. And guess what? You're not the only person. Even those that have been in years and years and years of working in cybersecurity, at times, maybe you have a presentation with the CISO and this is your first time, right? So you might feel nervous. It's just one of those things. Now, what you need to be able to learn is how to overcome these things. It's just part of human nature. So what I recommend to people is you need to be able to sound confident during interviews. How do you do this? Through practice. Practice makes perfect. So if you have an interview, you might consider doing a mock interview in front of the mirror. Maybe you want to look at your body language. You want to make sure that you're speaking like somebody that knows what he or she is saying. Worst case scenario, remember those anchor points I told you earlier, right? Just call them up. I have an interview. I need you to ginger me, right? I need you to motivate me. So you need to know that imposter syndrome is a thing. And imposter syndrome is when you feel like an imposter. You feel like, oh, although you've been trained, although you've done your research, you have all the certifications, I don't think I can pass that interview. That's totally incorrect. You can. And of course, your first interview might not be, the best. But as you do more interviews, you're going to notice that you're getting better and better. After every interview, you want to make sure that you go back to your drawing table. How did the interview go? What questions did I not answer properly? Go back and do some research, right? So that you are better positioned to answer that question in a better way during your next interview. And before you know it, you're going to be very perfect and you're going to start, interviewing seamlessly. Self-doubt, similar to imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't do this. You can. You just need to believe in yourself and you need to sound confident. That's really what is important. Fear is something we all need to live with, right? So you need to find a way of overcoming this. And then, of course, anytime you want to give up, at times, you start something and halfway, you're like, wow, who sent me? What was I thinking? Has anybody ever felt like that before? Anyone? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you for your candor. Any other person? Or are we all perfect people that we don't even feel nervous during, a presentation?
You could always
Okay.
sometimes too.
Yes. I mean, this is something that happens to everyone. I mean, if I begin to tell you stories of what has happened to me in the past, So whenever this happens to you, these are the ways to overcome them. Remember your why, right? What I tell my students is, beside your bed, I need you to write the future salary you think you'll be earning. I need you to write the reasons why you want to transition into cybersecurity, such that whenever you feel like giving up, you can always go back to that sheet and remember why, right? Another way is to commit yourself. A way to commit is by telling people, of course, maybe you have like a good network of people, or maybe your kids, right? For example, when I wrote my CSCP exam, my anchor point was my daughter. I wanted to crash prep for the exam in 2 weeks. So what this meant was no TV, late nights, right? And because I didn't trust myself to stick to my plan, I told my kids, I told my colleagues at work, guys, please, anytime you call me, remind me, are you prepping? Check on me. So that may be your anchor point. So always remember what you stand to gain or achieve. Whether it's the life balance you want, work-life balance, whether it's the six-figure salary, or maybe because you're just frustrated of what you do right now. You're tired of what you do, or maybe you're bored. Whatever you've been doing right now, it's routine. The good thing about what we do in cyber is there's never a dull moment. From your stakeholders to your systems, I mean, anything can go wrong. You need to be prepared. And also because it puts you on your feet, right? People are going to call you impromptu to say, oh, we need your opinion. And you must be able to speak intelligently. And you need to remember that quite a number of people have successfully launched their career with no prior experience. In fact, I think I have quite a number of people that have done that. And I might call one or two to just quickly talk about that. Always remember that people, in fact, so many people have done this. They now have a good work-life balance. They have time for their families. They now earn well. Maybe when you move to maybe the US or Canada, at times people misinform you. They tell you, when you're moving, the only job you can get is manual work, or maybe the only job you can get. No, please, let's break away from that thought process. You can achieve anything whatsoever you put your mind to achieve, as long as you're ready to put in the work. So with the right support, with the right training program, the sky is your limit. So always think eyes on the prize. Okay, so I'm going to go back to one of my old slides. And then let's see. Onyi, are you in here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. I'm looking for your slides. Okay, you might need to just...
Okay, I'm good to speak.
Cybersecurity.
Okay, found. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Oyi, and I'm an alumni of this program. Prior to joining, I had no tech experience. I currently work as an IT risk and compliance analyst here in Canada. A little background about me. I studied accounting. I worked in the finance sector. I never worked in the IT sector or as a technical person. I'm one of the people Fola spoke with about accounting that had spoke about access controls and all that. I joined the class. I learned a lot. The fantastic thing about the training was that Fola starts from the basics and gradually builds on it. After the class, there's a post-training support. There's a WhatsApp group that encourages you to continue upskilling yourselves. You meet people, you have a good network, and helps you to have more insight into what you're doing, basically. Also, there's interview prep, LinkedIn, no, not LinkedIn, sorry about that. Interview preparation, resume writing that she helps with. She's just fantastic. She supports after the training and during the training. Okay, so
let me help you a bit, just to give some people some background information about you. So Oyi had just given birth. So she took, is it 16 months or 18 months? Well, sorry, pardon me, I'm not sure. But in this part of the world, you take quite a number of months during your maternity leave. And she was looking at, once I'm done with my maternity leave, I don't want to be an accountant no more. I want to do something different, right? So she heard about cybersecurity and she reached out and said, you know what, let me explore this. I'm at home. All I'm doing right now is taking care of my baby, right? So I can multitask. I can do both. And she joined. Bear in mind, she has no ProTech experience. So she's an accountant, so zero ProTech experience. She followed, the same roadmap I've talked about. And bear in mind that, she had some stumbling blocks, of course, but she was able to overcome those stumbling blocks. She built her brand as an IT GRC specialist. So another key thing is, if you've decided that you want to transition, it's not just doing the work. but you must also be able to demonstrate it, right? So without anybody asking, if they go to your LinkedIn, they must be able to see that, oh yeah, this person is actually into cyber, although you've not gotten that job. So you must position yourself strategically. You would want to pick, and because cybersecurity is so broad, there's so many, pathways to follow. So you want to leverage on your areas of interest. You want to zone in on your areas of genius to say, okay, these are my transferable skills, and I want a career in cybersecurity around this area. And then, of course, in today's world, we all know what storytelling is all about. In fact, that's the easiest way of passing your interview. Storytell and buttress it with facts. And during the training, she wrote her CISA, and she built a network of professionals within the industry. So we worked closely with OIE. We helped her sort of draft a career roadmap to say, okay, what are the areas you really like? What are the domains of cybersecurity based on all the trainings you've taken? And then based on that, we narrowed it down to about 4 career pathways. We also developed what you call a short-term and long-term career goal. So short-term career goal is like, oh, this is what I want to be, right? But maybe you're applying for jobs and you don't get that specific goal, but you get something else that is related. That can be your immediate short-term career goal, pending when you get to the exact place you want to be. And following our career roadmap, she was able to land multiple offers within the cybersecurity GRC field. So her job title today is IT GRC and Business Continuity Manager. So you see that this role is not even one of the ones I talked about earlier. That just shows how in cyberspace, you can have numerous job titles. She obtained her CISA certification even during the training. And I know that right now she's also working on CISM. So that's another thing about cybersecurity. You get one certification, but that's not the end because you want to progress. You want to get to the next level. Then you now want to start thinking, okay, I have CISA. Do I do CISM next? Do I do CCSP next? What do I do next? Right? And, she's excelling in where she is right now. Okay, so our next slide is, I'm going to show you a few success stories of quite a number of people that have transitioned. So you can look at this first one here. This person is now a cybersecurity analyst. So a brief description of what she's doing, she put that in, and she also highlighted some of the things that helped her get the job. Here, this is someone that also completed our training program, and she actually got multiple job offers. This is another person based in the US, and she got a TPRM role, so third-party risk management. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on. There was someone that was supposed to talk here today, but she had to write the CISSP exam. But I'm just gonna quickly talk about her briefly. So her name is Efe. She's an optometrist, or she studied optometry, and then she wanted to transition into cybersecurity. So this is even someone in the medical field. And she built her brand as a cybersecurity GRC specialist. This lady loves PCI DSS actually, and good enough, as part of our interview, they asked her some questions around PCI DSS. So follow the same roadmap, and she has gotten her first job, and she's now in her second job. Her first certification was CISA, and she's now writing CISSP. So she has moved up the career ladder and is currently working on another exam. So let's talk about this action item I need everyone to work on at the end of this session. So I talked earlier about identifying your transferable skills. You can do this on Excel. You can do this on Word. If you like writing, like me, paper and pen would work. So you want to identify based on what I learned today about what cybersecurity professionals do, what are some of the things I've done in any prior role that relates to this? Write everything down. And then you want to think, out of all these numerous career pathways, which ones am I interested in? Please don't write more than 10 because People come to me and say, oh, I want to become a pen tester, I want to be a SOC analyst, I want to be a GRC specialist. And I'm like, you know what? Let's consolidate this a bit because the skills you might need might be slightly different. So interested career pathways. Do you want to be a doer? Do you want to be a talker? Do you want to be very technical? Are you willing to go technical? Are you willing to, I've noticed a lot of people do not really like infrastructure. They say, oh, for like this area is too technical. Are you willing to learn how to code? Are you willing to learn how to script? Because when you look at Linux, Unix flavors or distributions, there's no graphic user interface. So for you to use those systems, you must be able to write your scripts, maybe using PowerShell or whatever tool you want to use. So you write that down. You now think, if I want to get here, what action steps do I need to perform to get me to where I need to? So that's something else you want to write out. And then, of course, the last thing you want to do here is to put timelines. If you try to do something without putting timelines, most times you're not going to achieve that. So you want to put timelines, say, okay, in how many months can I achieve this? And please be realistic, right? Give yourself some time. 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Everyone here learns at different paces. So take your time, depending on how stressful your current job is. So you want to put all this information down and then start working towards it. Okay, and then my next slide is going to talk about how I can help you. If you're looking to transition, let's talk about how I can help you. So I founded a company called Winfinite Consulting, and our objective is to bridge the gap in the industry. A lot of people, feel like they want to transition, but they're just overwhelmed by maybe too much information, or they don't know what to do, or they're tired of their current jobs. They want to do something else. They feel like they are undervalued, underpaid in what they currently do. And they're aiming for something better, something, that will be more interesting, something that is not boring. You want to wake up every morning and think to yourself that, oh, it's another beautiful day. And also, when it comes to changing jobs, it's very easy for you to change jobs. So yes, let's talk about how I can help you. So we have 2 cybersecurity programs. One is our Cybersecurity GRC program, which we've talked about today, and we've said is less technical. And we have the Cybersecurity GRC Technical Launchpad program. So depending on how technical you want to go. Both programs are designed for beginners with no prior tech experience, and it equips you with the technical skills and experience required to perform on the job. You need to remember that hiring managers will not be asking you theoretical questions during interview. It's going to be case study questions where they will give you a particular case study and your response must be tailored to that scenario. So here, if you want to confidently execute cybersecurity GRC programs, then this program is for you. A lot of people always say, well, I don't have the money now. Well, here we offer multiple payment plans, including financing option. So 0 interest rates. So basically, this is like a buy now, pay later. You can join from the convenience of your home. I know a lot of people join from different parts of the world. So distance is not a barrier. And you're going to have access to recordings and training resources. There's also access to the digital alumni community for trends, industry trends, continuous learning, referrals, and then, of course, post-training support. The program, the duration is 10 weeks, and it's a combination of self-paced training and live instructor-led classes. The program is held Saturdays and Mondays, Saturday at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST, and Mondays, 6 p.m. EST to 7 p.m. EST. The cost of the program is 2,500 Canadian dollars. And this year, what Winfinite Consulting wants to do is we want to empower more people to transition into cybersecurity. In fact, we've put a number to it. So this year, we want to empower at least 1,000 people. So today we're going to be offering a 5% limited time offer, which is going to end in 48 hours. So after we talk about the Q&A, we can then provide this code. The next cohort starts on February 10, 2024, and registration closes on February 2nd, 2024. Our website is www.winfiniteconsulting.com. So if you go to this website, you can read about what we do, the services we offer, and we also provide a 15-minute session. So if you just want to talk to our instructors, our career advisors, you can also explore that. So what's the program about? I'm going to quickly talk about all of the modules that are covered during the program. And I'm going to quickly go through this so that we can cover questions and answers. While I go through this, please enter any questions you might have in Slido under the Q&A section. So for our Cybersecurity Launchpad program, specifically the GRC, which is Governance, Risk, and Compliance. In week 0, you have a pre-course module. So the pre-course module is something it's a self-paced module. And what it covers is introduction to technology and cybersecurity. During the training, we make no assumptions that you have prior tech experience. So we start from ground zero and then slowly progress. And then for every module, you have quizzes, you have case studies, you also have real-life simulations. And after each self-paced training is a live instructor-led class. So in week 1, we cover cybersecurity governance and risk management, which we've said today is the foundation of cybersecurity. And for every module, you have quizzes, you have case studies, you have common interview questions for each domain that is being covered. In week 2 and 3, we cover cybersecurity standards and frameworks. Now, this is not theory. This is practical, hands-on. A lot of people struggle with these standards and frameworks. And that is because they believe that they need to know everything in those frameworks. But you need to approach standards and frameworks as a library, right? The same way you go into the library, maybe when you're doing a research and you know the particular role you're going to say, oh, I want to look up some books on maths. That's the same way you should be approaching standards and frameworks, right? ISO 27001, NIST CSF. So ISO 27001 is your ISMS. If your organization is certified, you need to help them comply with the requirements. You need to understand the Annex A closures. You need to understand organizations now are moving from 2013 version to 2022 version. And there's a timeline for them to adopt the 2022 version. So if this is something you want to pursue, during this module, we talk about the adoption. We also talk about when you're developing standards and frameworks, right? How do you leverage on these standards and frameworks? How do you align them? How do you leverage? How do you benchmark these standards and frameworks to your policies? And you have NIST CSF. So NIST, Cybersecurity Framework. What is it about? How do you implement it? If you're developing a cybersecurity strategy for your organization, how do you leverage this? You have NIST 853, which is security controls. So what are the important security controls your organization must have in place? You have RMF, Risk Management Framework. What are the phases? How do you adopt it? You have COBIT. COBIT is for IT management and IT governance, ensuring that the business is getting value from IT. You have PCI DSS. You have GDPR, SOX, FISMA, and we also cover cloud, CAIQ, CCM. And then in week 4, we go into practical cybersecurity and IT controls. There's also a bit of data analysis here, because when you're looking at maybe vulnerabilities, you want to see, oh, how long have these vulnerabilities been identified? Maybe on your vulnerability scanning tool, maybe Qualys as an example, or Tripwire. And then you want to do aging, or maybe you're looking at identity and access management control, data analysis, you want to get insights. So we're going to be doing this practical. And then, of course, for every area we covered, we always look at try-hack-me simulations. Then you have security control testing and assessment. So under compliance, right, you need to check these controls, are they working as intended to ensure that the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your systems and data are assured. Then we have introduction to infrastructure and network security. Remember that infrastructure is like the underlying backbone of your applications. So whenever you're browsing, maybe you connect to Walmart websites. Remember that for Walmart website to be up and running, there are a lot of underlying systems, your servers, your databases, your operating systems that are working behind the scenes. So you want to understand this infrastructure, network devices, as well as network security. We're also going to delve into penetration testing. So what is penetration testing? What are the phases of penetration testing? What are some of the common tools you want to use here? And we're also going to be looking at social engineering concepts. You're going to look at business email compromise. You're going to look at phishing and quite a number. And then, of course, because this is tailored to real world experience. So what this means is we're going to be looking at a lot of case studies. In the real world, if you start interviewing, at times they're going to give you a case study and then they'll ask you to create, develop a presentation and you'll present it during the interview. So we're going to be practicing that. Group projects. As cybersecurity professionals, we don't work as lone wolves. You work with maybe a team or other stakeholders. Interview prep and career mapping. This is very important, right? This is where we help you narrow down, where you should be based on the areas you like and the areas you do not like. What are the relevant certifications? Then we also go through job search strategy, interview Q&A, post-training guideline, and next steps. And we have a class, which is voluntary participant-directed recap, where we want to go through everything you've done so far. And then at the end of every week, you have try hack me simulations. You also have assignments on forage platforms. And for all the certificates you get, we encourage you to publish them on LinkedIn. There are a lot of bonuses. I mean, we don't have enough time to possibly talk about everything, but when you explore our website, you can see more details around this information. We also provide exam prep materials. Specifically, we provide at the minimum these 4. So that while you're in training, you're also working towards getting a certificate to help boost your resume. And we also create self-study groups for some of these exams. And we have our post-training support, meaning after the training, we understand that at times, you might need us to handhold you. Maybe you just have some questions, you have an interview coming up, you need some tips. So all of that is covered during the post-training support. If you go to our website, you're going to see this information. So this is just, going a bit deeper into all what I've already covered. So I've talked a bit about this, but I'm just going to quickly recap. Winfini Consulting supports and handholds you throughout your transition process via our practical cybersecurity training, where you have industry experts come in, talk to you about what to expect in the real world, because the truth is, boot camps and real world are different. We also provide career services such as interview prep, real world case studies, resume walkthrough, how to customize your resume to job description, and post-training support and career coaching through our tech community group. So here we have quite a number of people. You share information for job referrals, seminars, industry trends, just keeping up. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us via any of this. Our Instagram is Winfinite IT Consulting. You can follow us on Instagram. We share game-changing tips in there. You can subscribe to our weekly newsletter via our website. If you scroll to the very bottom, you're going to see that. And you can follow us on YouTube, Winfinite IT Consulting. So a replay of today's session will be uploaded on YouTube. Now, for what we've all been waiting for, let's go into our Q&A. Okay, so 1 minute. I'm trying to look at time as well. So this is actually what you call a cybersecurity career pathway mapping tool. This is also free. If you go online and just type in CyberSec. So what this does for you is it has quite a number of job titles, quite a number. And it sort of ties these job titles to the top skills as well as the relevant certification. You would also see whether the role is entry level, mid-level, or advanced. So this is the URL here, cybersec.org. It also shows you more like a heat map of the distribution of these jobs in the US or in Canada. So this also shows you job titles, the certifications, as well as the top skills, still on the same website. And basically this is telling you the top skills employers are looking for. So this is also a guide to help you sort of map your career pathway. Okay, questions. So I see quite a number of questions, so we're just going to start that as well. Okay, so what's our first question? And as I go through the questions, if there are any questions you have that you haven't already put in, please feel free to add it to Slido. Okay, so first question. Immediately signed on Google Set and it says to pay 55. Okay, so for this one, it's not entirely free, but you can at least work on the 7 days free trial. Okay, another question says, how much of the standards? Please, can we go on mute? There's sort of a background noise and it's a bit distracting. Okay, how much of the standards do you need to know before the interviews? Okay, this is a really good question. So most times, when you look out, when you want to apply, they're going to put the standards, the specific standards you need to be knowledgeable about. So whether COVID, whether ISO, whether NIST, whether CIQ, CCM for cloud, they're typically going to specify. But as a security professional, you want to know the best practice standards and frameworks. Now, knowing means being able to speak to it, right? What is it used for? Where should I leverage on it? So know at least an overview of each security standard and framework. Then for your interview, you're going to zone in on the specific ones that were advertised on the job description. Okay, school or training, which one is better? Now, this is a fantastic question. In my opinion, I would say training. And why I say that is, in my training, I've had quite a number of people that either complete school or are in school and then say the difference is in training is focused towards what is expected in the real world, right? Also, maybe how you talk, some of the tools you're going to be using, practicalizing what is expected of you, which your school might not really give you. Another way to look at it is your training is sort of your instructors. These are people that are in the industry. So they are sharing their experience that they've learned over several years with you in the boot camp. So what I would suggest is training is more hands-on, what is expected in the real world at school. Also, for school, at times you need to go take loans, right? Your school is not going to have like a post support for school. Once you're done with school, that's it. When it comes to resume interview, you're on your own. But when it comes to training, you're able to get all those extras. What certifications would you recommend for GRC or other cybersecurity entry roles? So I covered this in my slide, but I'm just going to take it. For some roles, they actually specify the certifications they want. But I'm going to talk about a number of certifications. You have CC. Now, if you already have a higher certification, please do not do CC. CC is just for a starter, right? But if you already have like season, series, COVID, then you have no business doing CC. Okay? So, but for a beginner, CC. Now, one thing to note about CC is CC, I would not say it's simple, but it's not a straightforward exam, which is really common to ISC2 exams. So I've noticed that a lot of people fail the exam when they just use the self-paced training. So if you're prepping for CC, make sure that you're also using supplementary materials. Don't just rely on the self-paced training alone. So you have CC, you have Security Plus, Conscious Security Plus. That's also a good one. That one works for you, whether you want to do technical or less technical cybersecurity roles. And for a lot of cybersecurity roles, they actually include Conscious Security Plus. You have Season, Certified Information Security Manager. That's by ISACA. That's another good one. And it's also quite easy and simple to pass, although you require 5 years of experience, but I talked about how to sort of manage that. The other certifications. So you have C-Risk. So when you look at C-Risk is mostly for risk managers. One thing I tell people is when you're writing certifications, make sure that you're working on vendor neutral certifications, right? And then you also don't want to box yourself into certifications that when you decide that, you know what, I want to move to another area of cybersecurity, you now have to start writing new certifications. But when you look at CISM, CISSP, of course, is an advanced exam, but it's also a good one. You have CCSP. So if you're looking to pursue cloud, another thing about certification is you need to know the domain of cybersecurity you want to focus on. Then you can now start thinking of what certifications are specific to those domains. But generally, I will tell you CC, Security Plus, CISM, C-Risk at the minimum. Do try Hack Me, Hack the Box, and other CTF events help someone land the GRC role as they are more technical. Now, remember that the fact you've completed this does not mean you're going to get the role, right? You must still be able to demonstrate knowledge, skill, experience during the interview. So it's one of the things that's going to help you because what it does is it's a simulation, right? And it's hands-on. So during the interview, when they ask you for, oh, tell us about a time where you did something, you're able to leverage on some of the examples. So it's not the only thing that would help you, but it's definitely one of the good ones that would help you. Is cyber GRC different from cybersecurity? Okay, let's see. Does anybody want to answer that question?
Yeah, can I go on?
Yes, please, Fatima.
So cybersecurity is such a broad area, broad profession. We have different sector in cybersecurity. In it is GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, in which Coach Fola just elaborated on it now. So in conclusion, GRC is one of the aspects of cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima. So that's very correct. So just for clarity, I'm gonna let's see. Okay, we have just 5 minutes. Okay. Let me see if I can quickly go back to that slide. Okay. Yeah, so for the person that asked the question, remember we talked about cybersecurity generally, and then we also covered the technical roles and the less technical roles. So cybersecurity GRC is one of the areas in cybersecurity that deals with the management, governance, and strategy of security. Now, what makes it different or what makes it unique is the fact that it's not as technical as some other cybersecurity roles. So as a GRC, a good way to look at this is, imagine you have like an electrician come into your home. So an electrician and a supervisor. The electrician is the one that, will be coupling the wires together, while the supervisor might just be giving instructions to say, well, according to the US, whatever, electrical inspection, you need to connect red to blue. So that's a good way of looking at it. So in GRC, you need to know your standards, your frameworks, your risk management, but you will not be the implementer. What are some recommended links or sources to learn more about GRC cybersecurity compliance topics? Now, that's a loaded question. So I'll start with what I know very well first, which is if you follow us on Instagram, we'll post quite a number of useful tips. YouTube also has a lot of materials. So when we have information sessions like this, you can learn. And then also this year, as part of, my bid to empower more people in cybersecurity, I'm going to start having monthly webinars where I'm going to be talking about specific topics, not just a beginner session like today's one. YouTube, generally, just put your questions in Google. That would help. LinkedIn Learning is another good one. When you subscribe to Thought Leaders, you have SANS, News Bites, you have Dark Reading, you have Future News, you have quite a number. What these people do is they're going to be sending you emails about trends in cybersecurity. They're going to be sending you information about maybe there's an issue, maybe there's a data breach in any issue, something happening, right? So that way you're able to keep up. You have Udemy, you have Coursera, quite a number of stuff actually, quite a number. Even on LinkedIn, there's so many groups you can actually subscribe to or follow. I don't have everything at the top of my head right now, but maybe we can connect later because I don't even know how to share that information. Or better say, I think I'll make a video about that topic. And then you can go back to it. But I've mentioned some for now. Would we be getting a copy of this presentation? Unfortunately, you won't be getting a copy of this presentation. However, the replay link of this information session will be sent out via email and will be uploaded to our YouTube. So you can always go over it. And if you have any other specific questions, you can reach out to us via any of our channels, either via LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, email, or even our website. How does ransomware occur? Fantastic. So, a good example, ransomware can occur in many ways. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One, imagine that you're in your office, all right? And then you get an email from somebody, and there's an attachment to that email. And unknown to you, that attachment has an embedded ransomware that you know nothing about. So the way it's going to work is when you download that attachment, the executable file is going to run in the background. But as a user, you would probably not notice anything going wrong. Or at times, there might be a few indications, but you might not even notice, like if you don't really pay attention. Once that executable runs, if it's a ransomware, once it starts running on your system, it might then create a backdoor. So backdoor is basically granting access to somebody without having to enter credentials. So that person can then come in and then, from there, go ahead to maybe escalate privilege. And then before you know it, the organization will no longer have access. So what they will do is the code can even encrypt all the information on your systems. They encrypt it in such a way that your organization no longer has access. And then a message displays on your screen saying that, oh, you've been exposed to a ransomware attack and you need to pay money or some Bitcoins to be able to get access to your information. So that's an example. There are other examples. It might be because you clicked on a link. I mean, so many examples, but that's just one of the common ways. It might also be because somebody gained unauthorized access to the back end of your system and they were able to encrypt all your information. Why do we still have cybersecurity chaps not getting jobs? Oh my goodness, this is a really, really intelligent question. So the reason why some are not getting jobs is because they've not positioned themselves properly. Maybe because their resume are not demonstrating that they have the right skills and experience. Or maybe because during interviews, they're not demonstrating the fact that they have the right skills. If you attend an interview and you don't sound confident, but you know what you're saying, I mean, the hiring manager might not be convinced that you're the best person for the job. So that's one of the common reasons why people do not get jobs, because they have not put themselves in the position to demonstrate to hiring managers that they have what it takes, or they have the right skills and experience. So maybe what they need is a resume revamp, a LinkedIn profile revamp, or maybe an interview prep just to better talk more intelligent or use the right keywords during interviews. Can a person with a customer service background work in the GRC role? Yes. Anybody, whether customer service, accounting, because GRC is, I don't want to say not technical, because you can go for some conversations and you need to talk a bit technical, right? So, but GRC is a less technical role. So even with no prior tech experience, I've worked with customer service representatives in the past, and they have successfully transitioned into cybersecurity GRC. What is the most important certification in cybersecurity and where to sign up for? There's no most important certification. The certifications depend on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so I've talked about quite a number. So you can pick up one, sign up, and start working towards it. Can we have the recording? Yes. So I have answered that question before. I was actively working towards Scrum with over 2 certifications, and I want to switch to CS. Do I make a new LinkedIn, or how do you think both? Okay, now this is interesting. I am also certified in Scrum, and I get a lot of messages from recruiters telling me that, asking me if I'm interested in roles like business analyst with the focus on cybersecurity. So what I will tell you is it's a global village now. So if you have Scrum already, you don't have to delete that. You can actually integrate both. And with where technology is going right now, most roles are going to be combined, right? With a focus on cybersecurity. Is it really possible to go into GRC being non-technical? I mean, that's what today's conversation is all about, right? But from my experience, yes, because I've worked with so many people. I have supported over 200 people in transitioning to cybersecurity. And I'm sure if you speak to any of them, right, they will tell you it is possible. Now, the question you should be asking, is it easy, right? It's not as easy as ABC, but it's definitely doable as long as you're ready to put in the work and you're ready to follow the process. As Onyi mentioned today, Onyi was not tech at all. In fact, her first attempt, for writing CISA, she failed it, but she didn't give up. She tried again. And now she has CISA, she's already working on season. So yes, it is possible. Please, what's my full name? My full name is Fola Adegoke. On LinkedIn, I believe it's Fola Shade Adegoke, but there's no H in my full name. Employees that work in technical roles have to be on site or can still work from home. Well, the truth is, as long as you're working in cybersecurity, most times you can work remotely. It depends on your organization. Because even if you go into the office, you still need to connect remotely to the system in your data center, right? So you can actually work remotely. It just depends on the strategy of your organization, whether they want you to be on site. For some roles, definitely on site. So roles like SOC analyst, most times they are on site. How do you take classes, live or replay? So Saturday and Monday classes are live. The self-paced training is a combination of videos, combination of simulations, combination of quizzes. So I would say both. And then for every live class you miss, of course, we always have recorded sessions for all of our live classes, especially as for beginners. You join a class today, in 2 weeks, you might have forgotten and you need to go back to it. Or maybe you're prepping for an interview and you want to go back to the materials. Do you need to have certification to work in cybersecurity? The answer is no. But look at it this way. You are among several thousands of people that are looking to get a job, right? So you want to have what is called competitive edge. So that is where certifications come in. Another way to look at it is if you're a hiring manager and you're interviewing about 10 people, and all 10 of them did very well during the interview, they have great resumes. At the end of the day, you're going to start looking for how to disqualify them or how to get, because you can only employ one person. So you might now start saying, okay, if they've all done very well, what else? Oh, this person stands out because this person has this certification. So certifications are not mandatory, but it helps you stand out and it gives you an edge. And it also validates your skills. Okay, the financing option mentioned, is it available to those outside Canada? I think it's available to those in the US and Canada. I've actually never even checked if it's available to those outside, but I'm definitely sure it's available to those in North America. But I can check, or better still, aside from the financing option, we have some other options where you can pay twice. So that is different from the financing option, and that is definitely available to everybody, irrespective of the location. So what that means is instead of paying the money at once, you can pay it in 2 installments. Do we get access to you other trainers to prep us when we have interviews? Yes. So during the training, we do a lot of interview prep. And then after the training, you also have access to us in a reasonable way for tips. And, I noticed that a lot of people, it's not like what they only need to prep for the interview. They just need somebody to sort of hype them. That's all they need. So the simple answer to your question is yes. How big is your community? Right now, my community is over 200 and it is growing. And when I say community, I mean people that have passed through my trainings. Okay, the link sent in the chat doesn't redirect where to make payments. Okay, my team would work on that and they will paste that in shortly. So I'll paste that in the chat shortly. Do you need to have certification to work in cybersecurity? I think I've answered that already. In your opinion, how long does it take to complete the cybersecurity training with full knowledge of cybersecurity before securing a job? That's a loaded question. Well, the truth is, for this particular question, there's really no specific timeline. Over the years, I've worked with different people, and what I've noticed is people learn at different paces. For one of my other students that was supposed to talk today, she was able to complete her training in about 1.5 months, but because she loved reading and, doing a lot of research, aside from the training, she leveraged on so many other YouTube videos. And at the end of 1.5 months, she had already gotten a job. But for some other people, it doesn't work that fast. But averagely, I would say about 3 months. It can be longer or shorter than that based on the amount, on the time you invest and the efforts you put in. What's the success rate of the people in your community? Have they all gotten jobs in cybersecurity? Okay, so you need to remember that in terms of training, so the trainer is going to train you, but there are a lot of other things that you need to do yourself, right? So if it is 100% everybody getting jobs, that's not humanly possible. Because again, people learn at different paces. I have some students that, before the training ends, in my current class, I have about 5 students that are already taking certifications, like as the class is ongoing, and we've not even completed the training. I have about 4 students that have started interviewing. They've gotten to final stages of interview, and we've not even completed 2 months just yet. So in terms of success rate, what I would tell you is the success rate is very high. But of course, the success rate is not just dependent on the instructor, but the time you put in and the effort you put in as well. Okay, so with this, we have completed, I think we've taken, okay. The last question here is, what is the cost and duration of the program? So the cost is 2,500 Canadian dollars, which in USD is maybe about 1,900 or so in USD. Duration of the program is 10 weeks. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of this session. I want to thank everybody for joining. I hope you learned a lot. So before you go, I just want to get your feedback on how the session went. What did you learn? So in the chat, if you can just put in how the session went, your feedback on the session, that would be helpful. Okay, so have a great day, everyone, and I hope to see